In your universe, there's only one Spider-Man. But there is another universe. It looks and sounds like yours, but it's not. My name's Miles Morales.
Hey, kid. You're like me.
How?
I knew my day would come around this time.
I know it's complicated.
Just had to get my soul and free my mind.
You want to know what happened to you? I can teach you to be Spider-Man.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 29 of the DNA Film Wars podcast. Today we are talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, directed by, I'm going to butcher this first one, Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, and written by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman, and probably a bunch of other uncredited people. And starring Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Hailee Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, Lily Tomlin, and a bunch of other famous people as well. So, Dylan, what'd you think about this entry in the Spider-Man universe?
I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was, initial thoughts on it, I mean, well written, in my opinion. I thought it was really well written for a Spider-Man movie. Brilliantly animated. It's definitely original. Score and soundtrack are good. Acting's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. It's a really fun adventure. When I first started seeing it advertised, I was skeptical.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was like, it's a Sony cash grab. But it turned out to be a solid cash grab. So,
I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, a lot of reviews I've been seeing for it are calling it the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
We'll decide that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of our episode.
And I've heard some people say Oscar worthy, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode too. But why don't you go ahead and tell us about your story?
I thoroughly enjoyed the story. I think it's a really interesting concept, bringing in a bunch of spider people. It's a really neat concept. Obviously, our main focus of the movie is Miles Morales' Spider-Man, who we have not seen on screen to date. It's really refreshing to see a new version of Spider-Man that we haven't seen ever put to film. And I think that's really what helps this story be exciting and new and refreshing. I think it's really cool how the opening montage and monologue, we have what's considered, I guess, this universe is the universe that we live in. It's Spider-Man and a Peter Parker Spider-Man. And every time a new Spider-Man's introduced, one of my favorite things in the movies, every time a new Spider-Man's introduced, they give their origin story via comic book. I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. But I mean, we center on Miles Morales, who is a young boy who lives in Brooklyn. I guess not a young boy. He's in like middle school or junior high. Like he's like maybe 14.
I think he's junior high.
He's like 14, maybe 15 at the most.
Because he has that running joke at the beginning. Is it
puberty? Is it puberty? But we center around this young kid, Miles Morales, and he is going to this new school in Brooklyn. It's his first time there. It's kind of a higher end prep academy for the really brilliant and smart in the community or whatever, because you have to take some aptitude test to get in and be approved or whatever. But he shows up and, it's his first day at school. We get some family dynamic at the beginning. He wakes up and he's getting ready for school or whatever, and his dad takes him to school and drops him off, and he's like, "I love you, Miles," and he doesn't say it back, and his dad embarrasses the crap out of him in front of everyone. I would literally die if this happened to me. And his dad's a cop, so he goes over his little intercom and he goes, "You gotta say it. You gotta say it back," which was obviously in the trailer. You saw it in the trailer, and he makes him say, "I love you." That's really neat getting to see that family dynamic early on in the film. After that, we progress. We go and meet more members of his family. Aaron Davis, who in Spider-Man Homecoming was portrayed by Childish Gambino or Donald Glover, however you want to say who he is his uncle. And we get a really neat scene where he tells him to express himself through his art, which is graffiti. Takes him to this tunnel down in the subway, and he draws this big graffiti wall art, which is really, really pretty. And this is where he gets bit by our radioactive spider and gets his spider powers. From there, you get your classic origin story, what the heck's going on to me? I don't understand what's happening. And it really pokes fun at that whole puberty thing, which I think is a good joke for younger kids and somewhat adults alike. Mm-hmm. But I really like that. And he gets his spider powers and he starts finding new things out about himself that he's like, I never knew I could do that. at one point in time, after he finally realizes he's got these spider powers, he goes back down to this subway tunnel where he runs in. We're trying to find out this spider to see, what's going on with it, what's going on with him, trying to figure himself out, and happens to run into this universe's Peter Parker, who is voiced by, I believe, Chris Pine. Runs into him fighting the Green Goblin, trying to shut down this particle collider that opens portals to other dimensions, which is the big focus of our story. Obviously, Peter Parker ends up dying in this movie, or this universe's version of Peter Parker, and this portal's being opened, so we have all these other Spider-Men that eventually get out, which you find out. Spider-People.
Women and
Spider-Men, women, pigs, robots, Spider-Noir guy, that was great. Anyway. But then after he ends up meeting all these other characters is when our story really takes off. We get some team building moments, kind of, where Miles is like, I don't understand how to do anything we're doing. I don't know what my powers are. I can't really control them. He learns new powers throughout this entire early situation after meeting the first Spider-Man. And he learns how to swing. Our other dimension Peter Parker Spider-Man, voiced by Jake Johnson, teaches him how to swing on a web, swing on his webs and whatever, and kind of, is trying to, mentor him, but not in a very good way, which is kind of funny. And then enter Spider-Gwen, played by Gwen Stacy. We find out she's from a dimension where her Peter Parker has died and she couldn't save him, and that's why she really took up her mantle. And she has crossed over into this dimension for what she believes to be a reason of helping Miles. Comes to find out that, got to shut down this particle collider or whatever. But, after that, we meet a bunch of different characters. We go meet Aunt May, where we meet all these other characters, and we have more team building. They're trying to, train him and prepare him for what they believe would happen. And they decide that he's not prepared, and he ends up not being allowed to participate. And then he really finds himself, comes into his own. And then we have our epic showdown at the end with Kingpin and all of our characters coming together to try to, stop this particle collider. And I think it's a really great story. It's kind of a coming to age, coming into your own kind of thing, mixed with Spider-Man, and I really like it. And I'll give this story, I'll give this one 4 stars.
All right, yeah, I'll say the same thing about. I liked everything. I really liked most of this story. Like you said, how they every time they bring in a new character, they give their comic book backstory.
One thing I forgot to mention, another really, really neat aspect about this movie, we find out that his uncle Aaron ends up being the Prowler, and they have this really deep moment where he's like, oh my gosh, you're a villain. And then he ends up dying, and they have a really heartfelt moment where he's like, go on and do you. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry.
All right. I thought it was kind of funny, interesting how basically the first Peter Parker we meet is kind of the Sam Raimi Peter Parker.
He is the Sam Raimi Peter Parker.
Yeah, and that's kind of neat. And then, of course, the other Peter B. Parker, he's the same Peter Parker, but 20 years later.
He's kind of a bum.
Which
is kind of fitting for Jake Johnson.
Speaking of fitting characters, Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham and what's the anime girl?
Penny Parker.
They're pretty much. They're really background characters in this. We don't meet them until almost an hour into this movie. I was a little disappointed in how little of them we get, especially Spider-Man Noir, voiced by Nick Cage. Other than the fact that it's pretty meta, like his career, but I really liked his character. What little we did get, I thought he could have had potential to be the best character in the movie. But other than that, I really like this story. I think like you talked about, Miles Morales' family dynamic is really interesting in this movie. His relationship with Gwen in this movie is really interesting.
It's kind of awkward, but it's fun at the same time.
Fun at the same time. I think. I was kind of skeptical of another Spider-Man origin story, and 80% of this movie is an origin story, which is more than any other Spider-Man movie has devoted to an origin story.
I love how, we were talking about the origin stories with the comic books. I love how no one specifically, really hits hard on their origin story. They're like, okay, so I was bitten by a radioactive spider. After that, you know the rest.
Yeah, you know the rest. Speaking of the radioactive spider, so they kept emphasizing the number 42 on that spider. I mean, I'm not a big comic book reader. Did that mean anything? I took it as a running joke of like, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they give
The meaning of life.
The meaning of life is 42. Maybe there might be some comic book meaning behind
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know, but that's what I took it as, and I thought that was really funny. But anyway, moving on. The one of the weaker elements of the story, I think, would be the main villain of the story, which is Kingpin. I kind of like that twist that the woman scientist is
Doc Ock.
Octavia Spencer or something.
Octavia Spencer, that's an actor.
Oh,
Her character's name is... It just says Doc Ock. Her name's like it was Liz or something like that. Or Liv. Liz or Liv Octavius.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, Octavius is in there somewhere. And I liked the twist that his uncle was the bad guy. I honestly didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming either.
I love how he's like his spider powers. He can turn invisible or send electric shocks through his body.
But he never learns how to control them.
He does at the very
until the end. Yeah.
I guess I kind of got off track. One of the weaker points of the story is Kingpin. They try to give him motivation, like because his wife and kid were killed in a car crash, so they were trying to get away from him because they saw him beating up on Spider-Man. One thing, now this is a cartoon movie, and there's a lot of like unrealistic things that happen in this movie. But this is something that I have a problem with in this and the comics. Just because you're a super fat, obese man does not give you superhuman strength. And like Kingpin in this movie is ridiculously strong.
He's huge too.
He's just a giant box-shaped man.
Hey, you want to talk about box shoulder freaking Kylo Ren? This man's a box.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bigger than a car in some scenes almost.
Yeah,
he's huge.
He's huge in this movie. That kind of bugged me. But then again, Spider-Ham's pulling magical hammers out of his pocket. So, I mean, well, whatever, But other than that, I really liked everything about this story. I thought it was very clever. I thought they incorporated all these spider people really well into it. So I'll give the story 4 stars as well.
All right, well, let's get into some acting. I think this movie, voice acting wise, it's really good. It's probably some of the best voice acting I've seen this year, or heard this year, I guess. Shameik Moore does an excellent job as Miles Morales. He really portrays this character very well. He does come across as, which I'm pretty sure Shameik Moore's not that old. He definitely comes across as this young teen boy going through these changes with himself and, learning about himself and really coming into his own. And I think he portrays that very well. Jake Johnson's also great. I really enjoy him in this film. He comes across, he definitely comes across as kind of a bummy Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Kind of like, your weird uncle that you don't ever talk to, but when he comes up, he always tries, put his hand on your shoulder and give you some advice, and you're like, I don't know if I should really take that advice or not. Kind of comes across as that, and I think he does a great job with it. Hailee Steinfeld is Gwen Stacy. She's excellent. Hailee Steinfeld is pretty much excellent in everything I've seen her in. Mahershala Ali as his Uncle Aaron, I think is really great. He does a great job portraying, a villainous character after we find out that he is a villain, and I think the family dynamic between him and Miles is really good. Another part of the family dynamic is that Miles' father and his Uncle Aaron have a strained relationship too, and they don't really talk. I think that really brings in a great aspect too. Pretty much everyone in this movie does a great job. Didn't know until the end of this movie that Liev Schreiber is the voice of Kingpin. He does a good job with his voice. Nick Cage is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie, though, just because of how much he hams it up.
Nice pun there.
Did you like that one? He's definitely Nick Cage in this movie. I mean, there are some great lines that he gives. One of my favorite lines in the entire movie, he has this whole monologue where he's like, where Peter Parker, or Jake Johnson's Peter Parker's, he says something to the effect like, why is your like coat moving? There's no wind here. He's like, I bring the wind with me wherever I go, or some crap like that. And then at one point he says something to the effect of, sometimes one of my favorite pastimes is lighting matches and letting them burn to my fingertips just so I can feel something, anything. And I'm like, that is something Nick Cage would say in real life, and I love it.
There's some line in there about questionable morality.
I love him in this movie. He's one of my favorite parts. So voice acting, I'll give it 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I really liked all the voice acting in here. no problems. I really haven't seen any of Shameik Moore's work. Jake Johnson, Mahershala Ali, obviously one of the biggest up and coming actors in the business. Really good.
Up and coming. He's been around for a while, hasn't he?
I don't know. He won an Oscar here. Last year?
It's whatever.
He's
good.
He's good. Everybody in this movie's good. It's a very talented cast. Some of these big name actors only show up for probably like 2 minutes worth of talking. Like Chris Pine.
Just like looking at this, Chris Pine plays our original Peter Parker. Oscar Isaac shows up in this apparently. Zoe Kravitz has a voice in it. She plays Mary Jane.
Lily Tomlin is Aunt May. She's not in it much either.
We got some big names here.
But yeah, it's all really good. I'll give voice acting 4.5 stars.
All right, well, let's get into this hodgepodge section. The big thing, obviously we want to focus on is the animation of this movie, and it's excellent. It's top notch as far as animation goes. It's definitely a unique animation style, and I really enjoyed it. Minus like the opening, like the very opening of the movie when they were doing the Marvel comic thing and logo.
That was almost seizure.
It was like it flashed a lot, and I was like, wow, that's kind of hard to look at. But then after that, it really slowed down. I really think this is a unique style of animation that I've never seen before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really looks like a comic book has come to life on the screen. We get little cross-hatching looking like this was actually like hand-drawn, which I guess it was technically hand-drawn at one point in time before it was put into a computer and then put on a screen. But, it really keeps that hand-drawn look and that comic book feel the entire movie. Some of my favorite parts are when we get, action, like, quotes and stuff. We're getting, like, big, like, onomatopoeia type stuff, like pals and whams or flap or whatever. One thwop when he's, like, learning how to swing. He's, like, double tap to release and then, pull it down and it's making a thwop sound and they animate it. Thwip or whatever. But it's a really neat animation style. I wouldn't mind seeing it again in the future. It's great. The direction, I think the directors of this film did a great job getting these performances out of these voice actors in this film and having all their people who animated this. They did a great job. Soundtrack to this movie is great. We have the Sunflower Song by Swali and Post Malone that shows up multiple times in the movie. It's catchy. Every other song in this movie is catchy. We have a couple funny references. There's one part in particular after Miles first learns about his powers. He ends up on the side of a wall, and he's definitely wearing the same outfit from This Is America by Childish Gambino, the music video. And I'm like, oh, that's Childish Gambino. I'm like, that's a funny reference because Donald Glover, Childish Gambino's always wanted to play Miles Morales as Spider-Man. He's never had the opportunity to. The closest he got was Spider-Man Homecoming. But other than that. We got a Chance the Rapper poster that's in Miles Morales' room at his school. But everything about this movie, I think, it's very well made, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'll give the hodgepodge section, I'll give it 4 stars.
Yeah, I'll say about the same thing. Animation in this movie is beautiful. It is like comic book come to life. I really liked it. By the end of the movie, I was really liking it. I thought maybe at points when they were especially that high school scene after he first gets bitten and all of their thoughts are coming up in little yellow boxes. I thought, okay, maybe going a little overboard there, but overall I really liked it. And if you notice every scene that they had, there was these little, I don't know what you call them, but this grain over it. I don't know if a grain, but
almost it looked like it was supposed to be 3D, but it wasn't.
Dots over this film, almost. I really loved the animation of this movie. It is really great. Soundtrack, like you said, there's a lot of hip hop in it. There's a little bit of a score in it. It's all really great. Like you said, direction, the way they make these scenes flow together and everything, really great. The consistency of all the characters and everything, I think is really great. So my hodgepodge section, I'll probably give it 4.5 stars.
Heck yeah. All right. So overall thoughts on this movie, like we've said, the story, it's really fun. It's really refreshing to see a new Spider-Man being portrayed on screen, as well as incorporating all these other spider people into this big multiverse and experiencing this story and this adventure with all of them. It's really, really fun time, really refreshing, really enjoyable time. Voice acting, like I've said, extremely great, very beautifully animated. Really, really enjoyed this movie. It was way better than I thought it was going to be, judging based off that first trailer that we saw months ago. Didn't have really high hopes for it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was like, wow, why are they making this? This looks kind of dumb. Coming out of the theater, it was really good. It's probably one of the best Spider-Man made. I don't know that I'd put it at the top. I think I'd still save that spot for Spider-Man 2, but I think this is a real tight race between this and Homecoming for that second spot.
Where would you put it, second or third?
If I had to decide, I think I would say I enjoyed this more than Spider-Man Homecoming.
Really?
Just because of the animation style and the voice acting, I think it's really good, and it was really refreshing to see someone that's not Peter Parker as Spider-Man on screen 24/7. So I will give this story, or the entire movie, I'll give it 4.5 swinging webs.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, what I find really interesting about this movie would not work as a live-action movie.
No.
With the characters that they have in here and the stuff that they do. It is only doable in an animated format. But they take advantage of that, and they do a really great job with everything. Like I said, it's really well written. It's from the creators of 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie. So, I mean, what are you gonna what do you expect? It's a really fun time. Like you said, I've heard a lot of people say best Spider-Man movie ever. I'm not gonna go that far.
It is the highest reviewed and the best reviewed.
Rotten Tomatoes is not that accurate.
That's true.
I'll say, I think I would put it third. I think I'll put it third behind Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming. You can hear the rest of our rankings on our discussion episode posted a certain number of days ago.
Sometime before this episode has come out.
Yes. But I think overall though they do a really great job with everything that's here. So I'll give it 4 stars.
4 stars. All right, man. Well, let's talk about what we got coming up.
So we still have
we got 2 more movies this year.
2 more movies this year: Aquaman and Mary Poppins.
With that, our discussion episode, we will be ranking all of the DCEU films, which will be a chore.
There's only 5 of them.
Yeah, there's not very many, but it's still a chore.
I actually sat down and did it at work the other day because I was bored.
I'm so sorry. Some of these movies are bad.
They are.
As well as we might look into doing top 5 Emily Blunt movies. We'll decide that at a later time.
Yeah, and also big episodes we have coming up. We'll do at the end of the year we'll do an episode where I guess we'll call it our wrap up episode. Top 5 best movies, top 5 worst movies, most overrated, most underrated.
After the new year, we'll give an episode. We'll talk about our most anticipated movies of the 2019 year, maybe least anticipated movies of the 2019 year, as well as our hopes and goals for our podcast in the new year.
Yeah,
we got lots of planned next year. I think I'm really excited for what we can do in this new year. We've had a really big takeoff with our Creed episode. We're over 120 listens on that, which is
about 130 listens.
About 130 listens, which is only posted about 2 or so weeks ago, which is pretty impressive
for us.
For us, it's not bad. So we're really thankful for all of you that have listened to that episode, and we hope you keep listening and keep a lookout for new things in the new year. We're really excited for it.
Speaking of keeping a lookout for things, why don't you plug our social media sites?
All right, man. We are up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find us at all of those at DNA Film Wars, all lowercase, no space. So go ahead and give us a like or a follow there.
Yeah, if you have any specific questions and or comments, we're at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. We are up on all major podcatching services. Please feel free to leave us a review.
Absolutely. If you cannot find us on one of those, or like always, you choose not to listen on one of those, keep a lookout for us on YouTube. We're up there with our audio files, soon to be videos in the new year. Keep a lookout for that.
All right. With all that being said, I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you next
save
one.
the whole world.
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person. One thing I know for sure, don't do it like me. Do it like you.
Brooklyn! Stop us now. Hey, I'm all in. I ain't worried about a loss or a new friend. Never worried about a fraud or a new bitch. Lost love, I ain't worried about a process.
I see this spark in you. It's amazing. Hands up! Whatever you choose to do with it, you'll be great.